San Marino is a mountainous microstate within north-central Italy. It's one of the world's oldest republics. Its other name is the most serene Republic of San Marino. There's also a spectacular 11th century fortress that sits atop a high rocky outcrop with a very vertical drop below. But the other thing that's a bit magical about this tiny landlocked country is it's just become a player in the shipping industry. It will allow foreign ship owners to register their ships under the San Marino flag, and if it doesn't closely regulate those ships, it will be designated a flag of convenience country, because the flags of convenience system is often run at arm's length. Many wrongs have been committed under it: exploitation of seafarers, pollution, and sundry crimes. So we thought it would be worth investigating how, in fact, flags of convenience came into being and why the system continues. Stephen Cotton is General Secretary of the International Transport Workers Federation, which represents, and wait till you hear this, 670 unions from 147 countries, and he joins us from the UK. What are the 7 countries you have added? And I understand the list is a Transport Workers Federation list.
Yes, so thanks, Philip, and hi, listeners, an opportunity to talk to you about a long-standing challenge. So the countries we've added are Cameroon, Cook Islands, Palau, Sierra Leone, St Kitts and Nevis, Tanzania and Togo. And of course, they all look and feel like opportunities for countries to make money out of shipping rather than to regulate and control the shipping environment. So they're quite concerning that despite years of campaigning, countries are still subletting their registers and their flag states and therefore their sovereignty to ship owners that don't want to be responsible.
Stephen, I remember your backstory. Your federation represents all kinds of transport workers, airport staff, many others, but you came up through the maritime side of it, didn't you?
I did indeed, and I've been around the ITF 27 or so years, and Australia has always been at the forefront, actually, of defending seafarers. You are the epitome of a maritime nation. You have strong unions, and you have what I would describe a sense of fair play. So
look, to tell anyone in Australia that we've got strong unions, there'll be a gasp of astonishment, because you know how assailed the Australian union movement is.
Well, look, I mean, without getting into too much politics, of course, when we look around the world, we have a history of strong and free unions, and Australia still keeps that, despite, can we say, a couple of decades of bashing. And again, we consider Australia as one of those countries where you can go to get a fair treatment for seafarers. So whether you're a Filipino, whatever, we do a lot of back pay claims and assistance from our colleagues down there, all around your coast.
Stephen, glad to hear that. Now, there's always been concern about the flags of convenience system, hasn't there?
Yeah, look, I think, the long history kind of links with lots of history from the sort of the prohibition period around shipping, when American ship owners, or probably less, more upstanding citizens of society, were using Panamanian flag to run bootleg whiskey and other issues. So there's always been an issue about flags of convenience, as we describe it. Ship owners call it open registers, where people avoid responsibility. And, today is as relevant as it was in the 1920s, that you don't pay tax, you don't pay occupational health and safety, are not the primary issues they should be.
Well, I'm looking at the list of things you're concerned about: very low wages, poor on-board conditions, inadequate food, inadequate drinking water, long periods of work without proper rest, leading to stress and fatigue. Heavens above, it sounds terrible.
We felt throughout this COVID period, and our seafarers and a number of the other transport modes to keep the world supply chain going haven't had due respect that we felt they should. So we've been lobbying the UN and other players to get them key essential worker status. But there are still too many particularly in moments of crisis like this pandemic has brought on, where ship owners, let's say that not all ship owners are like this, some are better than others, substandard ship owners will run unsafe ships, and such as you say, as simple as drinkable potable water is not available for them. And we have many cases of abandonment throughout the last 18 months where bad business plans have a net result that a seafarer gets left on board a vessel in a jurisdiction where they don't have authority. We had many, many abandonments.
Well, let's talk about that, Stephen. In March, we talked on the program about the shipping backlogs caused by the pandemic, and the then 400,000 or so seafarers stranded, unable to go ashore or return home. What's the number like now?
So I would say we're at about half that number, but I think, again, for us and the world's seafarers, it's a sense of frustration that the situation evolves all the time, but the situation for the seafarers doesn't. So we have over 60 countries declare seafarers essential workers, but the right to move across borders does not come automatically with that. So we're at 200,000 over contract at the moment.
Tell me about the figures on abandoned seafarers, ships literally just left by their owners.
Right, so our figures for 2020, 85 cases, when we talk about abandonment, we mean sort of like it's giving your car back. The vessel just sits there at anchor. If you can get anchor, bear in mind it costs you to port and berth. 2019 we had 35, 2018 we had 38. And these are cases where the ship owner shuts up shop and leaves the seafarers on board a rusting, unsafe vessel. The majority of the cases are on flags of convenience, so we could give you the numbers, but it's probably a bit too much detail. But Panama is the worst offender, albeit it's the biggest register. And we've also seen kind of regional disproportionality. So we've seen numbers grow in the Gulf states of the Arab world, ships abandoned around the African coast. And these are the cases where they really are humanitarian challenges. We had a terrible story of a Syrian captain who was left in an Egyptian port on his own at anchor for 2 years and couldn't leave because the court recognised him as the custodian of the ship. We managed to get him off by substituting someone from Egypt. But those cases are the worst and unbelievable happening in 2020, 2019. So for us, these challenges for seafarers are quite shocking still.